Hello luxury watch lovers! In this channel, I cover the background, fundamental design features, and things to consider before buying your watch. If you have a luxury watch that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. In today's video, we're going to cover the Oris Diver 65 Cotton Candy Edition. The new releases, which range in colors from sky blue to wild green and lipstick pink, are designed to be unisex and made entirely of bronze, a combination usually reserved for Hölstein edition watches or Cole Brashear limited editions. Oris is a renowned mechanical wristwatch manufacturer with a history spanning over 100 years. It is distinguished by its red winding rotor, and with its involvement with the motorsport industry, thanks to the Chronoris and its collaboration with professional divers to create the famous Pro Diver, it's easy to see how the brand has become the #1 choice for many when it comes to choosing reliable, robust wristwatches for daring exploration. During the 1940s, Oris also introduced several pilot watches, including the pointed date, which was worn by US Air Force pilots during World War II as part of the iconic Big Crown series. Paul Catton and Georges Christian named their company after a nearby brook when it was founded in 1904 in Hölstein, Switzerland. Between 1906 and 1925, 5 more factories were established in Switzerland, employing a total of 300 people. The team of designers, watch technicians, and skilled artisans would be in charge of developing and supplying premium mechanical watches with dependable movements and cutting-edge technology. After Georges Christian died in 1927, his grandson and watchmaker Jacques-David Lecout took over as president of Oris. The iconic Chronoris watch for Oris was released in the 1970s and was a motorsport-inspired chronograph that was later relaunched in 2005. After 21 years, Oris decided to only make mechanical wristwatches with the release of its most complicated caliber to date, the Caliber 581 with moon phase module. The Oris World Timer was introduced in 1992 and it appealed to frequent travelers due to its ability to adjust local time forwards or backward in 1-hour increments with the simple push of a button. Oris is a very customer-focused brand. They take their cues from their customers and are unusually accessible through social media and their large authorized dealer network when compared to other comparably sized Swiss brands. It's nice to see a brand like this do something out of the ordinary, like the cotton candy watches, because it reflects not only their willingness to experiment and go against the grain a little, but it also implies that their customers want something like this as well. It's refreshing, especially after such a miserable period that we've all been through, that the enthusiastic community, at least in Oris's opinion, is ready for some pure confection. Let's take a look at some of its design features. It has a case size of 38mm and a thickness of 12mm. We're looking at a lug width of 19mm and a lug-to-lug of 48mm. The movement consists of the Oris 733 and comes in the following dial colors: sky blue, wild green, and lipstick pink. And once dark, you can see its exquisite lume capabilities. And protecting the dial is its sapphire lens. You can choose between a bronze bracelet or a leather strap. For all our aqua lovers, it has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. And it's not that badly priced, sitting at about $2,750. Here are 4 things to consider before buying the Oris Diver 65 Cotton Candy Edition. Starting with number 1, the case. If you're used to modern watches or have a large wrist and are afraid of anything smaller than 40mm, this would be a great case to try on to see what happens when you size down just a tad. The lug-to-lug length is comparable to slightly larger watches, and the result is a case that feels and looks elegant, especially on the extremely tapered bracelet. The case geometry is extremely simple. There is no beveling to speak of, and the finishing is straightforward, with polished case sides and brushing on the tops of the lugs. The emphasis is clearly on the case's size and the relationship of the bronze to the color of the dial. The simplicity of the case is reminiscent of dive watches from the 1960s when mass-produced dive watches ruled the day. Because there's nothing exotic about the case, Oris can successfully use it as a canvas for something more adventurous in terms of dials, case materials, and combinations of the two, which is a theme we've seen play out over the last few years through a stream of limited edition Divers 65 watches. Moving on to number 2, the dial. Cotton candy definitely gets its name from the fun dial colors available from Oris. Cotton candy has an inherent irreverence, and that idea is nicely transposed to these dive watches, which Oris claims have a simple and noble goal: to bring a smile to the faces of those who see them. There are 3 colors to choose from: blue, green, and pink, all of which are soft pastel shades. Pastel dials are extremely welcome, as most of the color we see in new watches is bright and bold. Softer tones, however, are more difficult to pull off, and there is less built-in appeal for watches in these colors, if only because they are less common and less well understood. But all are visually appealing, and Oris has done an excellent job of creating a watch that feels like it was made to be worn at the pool, the beach, an outdoor concert, a vacation of any kind, or in any situation where relaxation and leisure are the highest priorities. These aren't tool watches, unless you need one for having fun and staying blissed out. Anyone who has spent time looking at other Divers 65 variants will recognize the layout of these dials. We have circular and rectangular hour markers, date at 6 o'clock, and an easy-to-read handset. The hour markers and hands have bronze-colored surrounds to match the case, which is a nice touch. Also, on all 3 watches, the dial ticks and open minute track are in white, which allows the pastel colors to breathe a little more. If these details had been done in black, they would be extremely distracting. Normally, you want a minute track to stand out and have some contrast within the dial for legibility, but the opposite has been achieved here, which I think is a win because it keeps the focus on the color choice. The hands and markers are of course filled with lume, and the decision to go with a full radium colored tint here will be contentious for many. The pastel dials, combined with the bronze case and the familiar folks aged lume color, are a little off-putting at first, but you won't see many combinations like this, and the choices here are a little unusual. Throughout my time with the watches, a patinated case will appear much darker than it does in these photos. And while the case and markers match when the watch is new, they will not do so over time. It's something to keep in mind if the color similarity between the case material and the dial accents is part of what drew you to this watch. If that's the case, you should learn how to remove the patina from aged bronze. Onwards to number 3, the movement. The Oris 733 caliber, a modified Sellita SW2001, powers the cotton candy. This is an excellent choice for a watch of this caliber, and in my brief time with them, they all performed flawlessly, with smooth winding and setting action, and no technical issues. Regular fans will be aware that Oris recently introduced a new in-house movement of their design, the Caliber 400. These bronze Divers 65 are more than reasonably priced, and I can see a collector who is interested in experimenting with an unusual color taking a chance on one of them. And last but not least, number 4, straps and wearability. I truly believe the Divers 65 bracelet is the product line's secret weapon. The oyster-style bracelet has a pronounced taper and is extremely lightweight, so it fits perfectly on the wrist and has a satisfying and flattering drape. You'll tire of bracelets in general, but you'll alternate between the charming chintziness of vintage-style bracelets and the tougher, more technical bracelets on modern watches. Now, getting it right is a difficult balancing act to master. If you want modern conveniences like on-the-fly clasp adjustment, you'll have to settle for thicker and heavier bracelets. To achieve the look and feel of something vintage, certain compromises in overall build quality must be made. It's a challenge, and anyone who has struggled with bracelet comfort on a hot day or simply can't get the sizing right due to a lack of micro adjustment or half links will appreciate it. It may be enough to convince you to make the switch to nylon permanently. The Divers 65 bracelet leans more towards the vintage side of things, but it's far from cheap. I imagine this is what a brand new Submariner bracelet would have felt like in the 1970s. It has a solid feel to it, but it also has a lightness to it. You can tell it's well made and will hold together, but its tolerances aren't as tight as those in a bank vault. The clasp is incredibly thin and narrow, with plenty of old-school micro-adjustment capability via a tool. And this is perfectly acceptable to me. On a watch like this, I'd gladly trade push-button clasp adjustment for complete and total comfort 10 times out of 10. The cotton candy is also available with a leather strap, and as with any vintage-style diver, it can also look great on leather. And the bronze color of the case should be suitable for a wide range of colors and textures. However, if you're thinking about purchasing this watch, you should get the bracelet as well. The full bronze look isn't for everyone, but even if I didn't like the visual impact, I don't think I'd want to wear the watch any other way, because the bracelet is so comfortable and easy to wear. And this wraps up my review of the Oris Divers 65 Cotton Candy Edition. Let me know in the comments below, what's on your wrist today? Thank you for sticking it out right until the very end of this video. Nothing helps my channel more than you watching until the very end. If you enjoy this type of content, let me know in the comments what other watches you think deserve their own video. And remember, time is your greatest asset.